Right, what's going on, guys? Now, I think it's about time I've done a video on Liverpool. I've done a video on Harvey Elliott and how I think he's going to have a good season and a great career. It's now time to talk about Liverpool because they've got a new manager. It's a big transitional stage for them. It's a big difference to Jurgen Klopp. When you have a manager for that long as well, it's a big adjustment for those players. And some of those players have played with Klopp for so long, it's going to feel like a bit of a shock. But yeah, none of us really know what this Arne Slot is like. Maybe people who know the Dutch league will know more about him, but with us, we know of him, but the amount we know isn't great. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's about, and that's why it's difficult for us to predict how he's going to do. So all I can really hold on to with a lot of knowledge is how Liverpool done last season, and the players they still have. So their team hasn't really changed much. They've not really bought. I don't think they've bought anyone yet. So their team is roughly the same. Last season, I think they had a really good season. I think it got overshadowed because they were so close. They were in the title race for about, well, most of the season until around March, and then they just faded away. I don't think even they expected to be in a title challenge. But when you've still got players like Mo Salah, you've still got Van Dijk, anything's possible because they're world-class players. And I think this season will be no different. I think the only small difference will be, I don't think they'll be in a title challenge, but I think Liverpool will finish third again this season. I think it won't be as convincing. Like, they'd finished third comfortably last season. I don't think it'll be as comfortable. I think they'll be more closer to fourth than second. But they're still, because of the players they still have, they do need a big transitional phase because obviously Van Dijk and Salah are coming to the end of the. But they've still got enough now, but eventually Liverpool will need to replace those two. But I think for this season coming up, I think them two being in the team will be enough to get them third, along with the other players like, Szoboszlai scored the other day, McAllister, and not to mention their forwards like Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez. Say what you want about Darwin Núñez, but he was enough to help Liverpool get third. He's not a bad player. Gakpo had a good Euros. Jota is just one of the most underrated players in the league. There's probably players I've even missed, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, bloody hell. I think Liverpool will be okay this year. I really do. I think they'll finish third. I think they'll have a good season. It just won't be as convincing as last season. But anyone predicting Liverpool to finish fifth, sixth, seventh, I just don't buy it. I think even we still don't know. Like I said, we don't know too much about this manager, but I still think with their players, I cannot see them finishing any lower than third. I still think they've got a good team there. I don't think Slot will change too much. He'll try and implement his way of playing, but he won't go butchering the team. Hence why he hasn't really done that this year. He hasn't really sold many high-profile players this year because I don't think that's his plan. I don't think his plan is to completely butcher it overnight. I think he recognises that Liverpool still have good players and they don't need to go tearing it up too soon. So I think he'll make little adjustments. I think they'll buy some players soon, maybe 2 or 3 players, and just add to the squad and get them prepared in the long run for when Van Dijk and Salah have to move on. I think Liverpool will be fine next year. In terms of what players they need, I think they need a holding midfielder. I'm not convinced on Endo. He done okay in the first half of last season. I think he got a little bit found out in the second half. So they definitely need a holding midfielder to kind of replace Fabinho. In front, they've got Harvey Elliott, they've got McAllister, Szoboszlai. I think they're okay in that department. And I think they're okay for forwards as well. I think forwards, they're fine. Liverpool don't have an issue scoring goals. Even though, a lot of people said they don't finish enough of their chances, they still scored quite a few goals last season. I don't think it's a major issue. I think it's more maybe defensively. I still think they need another defender. I think maybe even two defenders. Because, they've got, at the moment, they've got Van Dijk and Konate, but I think you've then got Quansah, who's still a kid. He needs to learn more. They need a long-term replacement for Van Dijk. If they're going to bring in a forward, maybe bring in a left footer who can be a long-term replacement for Mo Salah. So he can play with Salah this season, or he can learn off Salah, and then when Salah does move on, then this guy can replace Salah in the future. So I think maybe bring in a forward, a holding midfielder, but a left-footed forward, holding midfielder, and a defender, preferably a centre-back. I think if they can get those three players, because they've still got a brilliant goalkeeper, those three players, I think Liverpool will be okay. I think it'll be enough to get them third, and it'll be enough for them to try and get this transitional season out of the way and really kick on the next season. Now, Liverpool will be okay. I've seen a lot of people slate Liverpool this season and say they're not going to have a good season. They've still got good players. They really do. If you look at their squad, it's still a very good squad. It just wasn't enough to go all the way in the Premier League. And I always felt that as well. I always felt that they were winning games right at the end, and it was just too often. And I think they were eventually, their luck was going to run out, and it did. But even the games they lost last season, how they didn't beat Man United away from home, they should have won 8-2. Honestly, when you look at the amount of clear-cut chances Liverpool had, and then there was the game against Everton where they deserved to lose against Everton, but the amount of chances they had was mind-boggling. And I don't think it was one of those cases of, they need to buy loads of forwards because their forwards aren't good enough. I think their forwards just were having off days. Luis Diaz, Jota, Nunes, they're still good players, but maybe at that left footer, for when Salah's having an off day, Salah for 75% of the season was unbelievable. But for that 25%, they didn't have anyone who could turn up when Salah wasn't performing. And I don't blame Salah for that, because you can't play at your best all the time. And that's maybe why they need a younger player who can come in on that right, just to give Salah a little bit of competition. Because at the moment, Salah is the guy on the right wing and there's no one else. You know, Gakpo likes to play on the left, Jota likes to play on the left or up front, Diaz is the same. So you've got three players who love the left-hand side or up front, and there's no one else on the right. I don't think Harvey Elliott's a right winger. I see him more in the middle. Liverpool will be fine next season. They've got some good problems. They just need to buy those three players, and that will definitely secure them third spot, I feel.